Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ulysses Planning Board meeting for March 4th, 2025. First order is a roll call of board members.
Jeff McDonald. Bart Gregg.
Linda Little.
Carl Pankowski, Chair.
Simon Bernard.
Mo Klein. For tonight's agenda, we have the following items. Town board member reports. I don't think we got one, and Caitlin is going to try and join us later. Approval of the February 18th meeting minutes, privilege of the floor. Old business items, we have the following: the Crossmore Tram site plan, final site plan review. New business items, the Halseyville Road rezone request. And town board resolution 2025-58. And notice to act as lead agency for proposed land donation with related minor subdivision. And one change I would like to make to the agenda for tonight is to move the DEC vernal pools training to the next meeting, since I've left the materials at home. So,
I'll approve the agenda with the admission, vernal pools.
all right,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We don't have the town board members yet, so we'll go on to. Has everyone reviewed the draft minutes for the February 18th meeting? Are there any corrections or changes? Do I have a motion to approve the draft minutes?
So move.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
All right. All right, that brings us to privilege of the floor. Is the portion of the board meeting where members of the public may make general comments on items that are not related to items on tonight's agenda. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on items not on tonight's agenda? All three of you are here for business. Anybody online? Oh, that's for the, yeah. I remember his name, anyway, for the tram, yeah, Neil. Sean, yeah, Richie, yeah, okay. In that case, do I have where are we at here? Do I have a motion to close privilege of the floor?
I so move.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. For old business item, we have the Crossmore Tram site plan, final site plan review. Proposal to construct a new 50-foot tram system from the upper portion of the subject lot down the steep slope to the lower portion of the lot near the shoreline. Proposed location of the tram is within the front setback and buffer to the lake. The BZA conducted a public hearing on February 19th and granted both area variances. Sean or the Crossmores, do you have any update for us?
Yeah, good evening, folks. Appreciate the Zoom feature. Not that I don't love Ulysses, but driving down it's been appreciate it. No real updates. I think the zoning meeting went well, and we provided a couple of a drawing, kind of a little clarification of kind of what the layout of the stations look like. I know we sent that to both boards, I believe. So hopefully, if there are any questions, those were answered, and I think they were pretty favorable.
Board members, any additional questions?
Yeah, I just have
Yeah.
one question, so. I can't find picture I'm thinking of, but are you still, so in your design, you're still coming from the top, from the parking area all the way down to the shore on the lakes, the lakeside shore? Is that the plan?
Correct. It's really the base of the hill. It's
Yeah,
30
okay.
feet or so away from the retaining wall.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know that I attended the BZA and I know there was some discussion about just going to the back of the house.
right.
And I just wondered if that had.
Well, we were supposed to get a plan for that. Did we get a new plan?
Did, that's the one I,
Is it on there? This one? Oh,
I know. I, can't remember.
What I
For some reason I,
got everything. Yes.
We have it on the website, but
Oh,
it doesn't look like that's hyperlinked. Did you guys see this particular one?
yeah,
Okay, so you saw,
yeah,
that
so
doesn't look
you
like
did,
you're going down or does it? I'm
it's
misunderstanding.
stopping right around the cottage. So what we have
Oh, okay.
is stopping right around the cottage area.
No, it goes to the beach.
It does go.
It does both.
Lawn.
It goes to the lawn, but it has an intermediate station that ties into the entrance of the house. That's the upper red you were seeing
So.
out there.
Right, yeah.
Did you not see the
The
same?
house is on the side.
oh, sure, I can see it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we wanted, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, as long as you have it, that's.
It's on our
He
website.
sent it, I can't. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
what I did.
didn't see it, but that's good that
Yeah.
you've got the
Yeah.
document
Yeah.
with the change to it.
When I saw that, it looked like it was stopping, so that's, yeah,
It does say
That's
lower
fine.
station, mid station.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I see the BZA required you to leave the maple tree there.
Yes, there's quite.
Correct. So they definitely was their preference and we'll make sure that maple tree stays. We have a couple different options. And we will present them to the Crossmoors and we'll pick the kind of the best of the options that we have available to us. Basically, you can put the tram to the left side of the tree or the right or the north side of the tree or the south side of the tree, and the tram might be at a slight angle. It still ends up at the same spot. You still have the same 3 stations. But it's also possible the tram might be it's possible the tree might not be in the way at all. So be able to put the tram just square to the house, more of an aesthetic thing. You know, we like everything kind of square and not slightly angled, but it functionally doesn't make any difference.
See, we have a draft of that resolution here. What did I do with it?
Oh, something business.
That was.
Yeah. That was that too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, oh, of course,
yeah,
it's
it
not gonna go back.
came in here. Whoop, that's not it.
This one?
What did I do with the draft of the resolution?
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Mules, is that resolution electronically or available or included in here?
I have.
I have it.
Was it an
Here's,
attachment?
Here,
Are we ready to go with the approval resolution? All right. Okay. Yeah. we just- let's see. Well, I gotta start with the top up there.
yes,
Planning Board Resolution number 2025-006 for resolution of final site plan approval of the Crossmore Tram located at 1125 Teganic Boulevard, town of Ulysses, tax parcel 31
You have it?
-2-16. And we'll skip all the whereases and just get down to the resolution itself. Now therefore, the planning board resolves the following. Planning board hereby grants site plan approval for the proposed site plan as described above and is shown on the site plan noted above. Let's see. Do I have a motion to approve the?
Yep.
second,
No,
That's good.
your turn.
Any discussion? All in favor?
okay,
Right, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
All right, Thank you, everybody.
It's-
Have
I'm
a
gonna
great
miss
week.
not going out every.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see you next month.
Now that the weather's.
Where,
getting-
where are you
Yeah,
coming
nice.
from anyway?
Just down the boulevard.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right,
Thanks, Scott. Right.
yes.
It was nothing to
Thank you.
do with either of these, like, I said, okay.
Right, for new business items, we first have the Halseyville Road rezone request. A proposal to rezone subject property located at 2012 Trumansburg Road from Development District Street 3 bar, restaurant and trailers to AR agricultural rural or R residential on the western portion of the lot and to B1 business on the eastern portion of the lot. Town board met on February 11th, 2025, and heard a proposal from the applicant. And passed resolution 2025-051, determined the proposal merited further consideration and referred the matter to the planning board for further review and recommendation. Mr. Doolittle, would you care to go through what you're up to and begin the process with us here?
Molly's gonna give me some access to share a presentation with you guys. I know many of you, but those who don't, I'm Chad Doolittle. I'm a local builder, a small business owner. A little background about me, I've been a resident here for about 16 years. I've been pretty involved with the community throughout that time. I ran the Golden Raider Youth Football organization for about a decade. Started flag football. Now we have 30+ kids at each level of that, and there are 3, so that's about 100 kids every fall out there playing football. Currently the board president of Trumansburg Travel Baseball, again, 3 levels, 30-ish kids, so 100 kids playing baseball all summer. So I oversee that with the help of the Weatherbys. And I am the varsity football coach at the high school. I'm the varsity wrestling coach at the high school, I'm the modified wrestling coach at the high school, modified baseball coach at the high school, and the varsity baseball team has asked me to be the strength and conditioning coach, which I don't know. So, but I don't want to waste your time other than to say that I think that my background and my involvement suits me uniquely to see this project through to its completion. So I can get this presentation up, I'll start to walk you through it. Just give me the ability to share.
Yeah, so the short end. Look at that screen.
Oh, okay, yeah, there we go.
Have that one down there at the arrow.
There we go. So, just a bird's eye view of the property, which I'm assuming admitted you are very familiar with. Before we get into what we want to do, I think it bears some merit to talk about the current condition of the property. So I view this property as kind of the front door to Trumansburg, and I think that we can do a little bit better than what we have right now. Houses that we build, I pay a lot of attention to the elevation when you first pull up, the entryway, it's the first impression, and our community that has so much to offer has given me so much support through my time here, supported my children through some hardship, and I just think that we don't have the right representation of becoming a town right now. So the current state of the property is dilapidated old bar. This actually, when you walk inside, there's a piano that was on the first floor that now came through into the crawl space. You can see the floorboards twisted underneath it. It's like a be a great haunted house, but I wouldn't let anyone in there. So, this portion of the property is kind of the first thing you see as you come into town. And then behind it, we've got some trailers with a lot of debris. And it's broken windows, missing windows, a lot of signs that these dwellings have been housing animals and campers that have been trespassing, and it's kind of a risk and poses some public safety. So I don't think we gotta dive into it too much, other than to say that these structures definitely need to go. We've pulled permits to demo everything there and clear the site, and once we get back to raw land, there's so much potential. Another beautiful shop there. So what we'd like to do is rezone the development district, which is currently zoned for what's there. Our restaurant, which is no longer usable, and the maintenance of existing trailers, which are also not inhabitable. So once we strip it back to raw land, we'd like to rezone the Halseyville side, as I know there's been some discussion on the application of agricultural versus residential, but we'd like to rezone the Halseyville road side as residential and the Trumansburg road side as business district, and that's delineated by yellow for the residential and purple for the business district. Go forward, you see that there is residential up here just north of the property now. So the intention would be to carry that orange residential parcel down Halseyville side. And this map doesn't show it, but further down Trumansburg, there is some development district. So it'd be more in character with what's currently there. It's a phased development. So part one is to strip back the dwellings that are there, structures that are there, and get back to raw land. Stage two would be the construction of some single family homes on the Halseyville side. And that needs there's pretty low inventory in Trumansburg right now. We're building a house on Curry Road, which is a to be built house, very close, and within 20 minutes of posting that house on the MLS, I was getting phone calls with families that have just been trying to find the right fit to get their family into Trumansburg, their children into Trumansburg. We've got a lot to offer and they want to take advantage of that. So some new single family homes would provide that opportunity to many families who are anxious to get in. And phase two funds phase three. So we would hope to be profitable enough to invest that money into an indoor sports facility, which would lie on the business zone district of the side, which would be on Trumansburg Road. That would be phase three. Benefits to the community. Obviously, the front door is shabby, right? So we need to spruce that up and make it look more inviting. The housing I mentioned, it's a need that we have, and why not invite new families to what we have here. New recreational opportunities. The problem with the current recreational, and I'm sure Will Glenn would attest to this, the only indoor spaces we have right now are owned by the school. So that process is cumbersome. The school sports have preference. I mean, I know that I've been running practices and recreation sports have come in saying, oh, we have reserved the space. And I've had to turn them away because we're in the middle of a practice. And there's just no other place for them to go. So practices and events oftentimes get canceled or rescheduled, and it's cumbersome, and miss oftentimes youth, but sometimes adults that are missing out on the availability and the ability to participate in things that they love and want to do. So this space would be independent, reserved on a first come, first served basis. And it would be in the discussion right now. I understand that there's an outdoor sports facility nearby that's potentially being adopted through a land donation. I think that's probably on the agenda tonight after me. This complements that quite well, because that, if it were to come to fruition, there's no lights on that facility, anticipated to be on that facility. And it's outdoor space only, no buildings, so this could bridge that gap. It would be after hours, after sunset. Lights on, still available to be used, and throughout the year regardless of weather, so year-round facility, not open all night, but after the sun goes down for a couple hours, sure.
It's the busy time.
It's the busy time, right?
After-
Everyone's out
after-
of
at
work.
midnight.
Exactly. And then, the new employment, new economic growth, the new housing, new customers for other small businesses like my own. Tax revenue is obviously appealing. Final slide here is that this property provides a lot of opportunity. It answers a lot of needs the community has. It can help the quality of life of some of the residents that are here, and it's very important in my opinion, spruce up that scenery and be proud of what we're driving into when we're coming home at night. Any questions that you guys would have, I would be happy to answer.
So what, in terms of the recreation building,
Yeah.
what are we really talking about in terms of size? And I'm not looking for anything exact.
Yeah,
But are
no,
we talking like a single soccer football field inside, or?
well, football field, fortunately, I don't think we have the space for, but I don't know if you've been to the rink at Lansing.
Spend
So,
much time?
right, so unfortunately, right, you gotta drive around the lake to a rival.
Yep.
So there's two side-by-side fields there. Initially, we'd be looking at one of those fields.
Okay.
And then there may be some ability to add on, some room for exercise and and then it would be multi-surface, right? So there's turf down, but there's other surfaces they can go over the turf for things like basketball or wrestling mats can be rolled out, so on and so forth. The turf is kind of the permanent surface, and then the other surfaces can be brought on, depending on the activity.
So at the field, at the rink, I know that the cost of practice got ridiculous and drove away a lot of users, and it became a very small group of people who had access to that facility. What's your plan here for,
Well, I can't.
you don't have a hockey rink to pay for it.
Right,
That's part of the problem.
Yeah, that's, right. Well, all of our buildings are fairly economical, right? We are trying to keep the cost of maintenance down as much as we can. I also, before I can answer any pricing questions, have to look into what's available in terms of community grants. So on, so there's a lot of work to do, and a lot of work has already been done. I can't quite recall the name of the board, but there was an organization that was looking to do rec fields well before we were able to do anything at the town level. So I need to get back in touch with those folks, because I had been in touch with them for several years, giving them numbers and information on the youth programs that I had run, to see what they had gathered in terms of funding to kick some of this stuff off. A lot of my contacts in the community, I'm sure, would be willing to donate time and labor to give their kids an opportunity to participate in activities here rather than have to travel. Good for in the winter. So my hope is to keep things affordable. It's not something that only the affluent can attend. I want to make it available to several kids, and also hopefully available to Ulysses activities, to work with Will on getting some of the activities moved from the school to that facility.
We got a memo from you about our responsibility.
Mhm.
And most of the ones, there's 9 of them, most of them are good. But 8 and 9, I don't know if you've read those.
I had been given the memo today. I don't have a
Oh,
copy
okay.
of it in front of me, but.
I'll read it, if the development is to be phased, a general indication of how the phasing is to proceed,
Mhm.
whether or not the development is to be staged. The sketch plan shall show the intended total project, which means we would have to have a plan to look at.
Right.
Right now, all we have is just a subdivision.
Mhm.
And then, of course, it's the physical and financial part of it. If you can physically do it, and if you financially can do it. So those are the two most important.
Sure, well, this is what I do for a living. I have the means to take the residential properties to fruition, and phase 3 is very much dependent on the profitability of phase 2.
Well, that's the part of the redistricting.
Right.
You have to actually financially be able to do all of it. So that's the one clause that we have to go by.
Financing is available. The business credit, my personal credit is excellent. We have the means to do the entire project, but the assistance of phase 2 would be helpful.
So-
It's not entirely contingent on phase 2 being a success, but it's helpful.
What does your timing look like in your mind? What's your
Well-
vision of the timing?
There's a lot of factors that may slow things down. Just made aware before this meeting of some new DEC regulations that have come out in January that could
Mhm.
slow us down 90 to 120 days. So
Oh.
my intention is to start the process and the clock moving on that this week. The residential phase and the demolition phase could be as early as this summer. The demolition phase potentially sooner.
Okay, and so, and then you'd have the houses completed and sold in a
Right.
year, 2 years,
Less than 2 years.
less than 2 years. And then you'd be.
It would be one house at a time.
Okay,
And I always give myself 6 months or so to do a house, and we're typically ahead of that a little bit, but you never know in terms of a lot of
Sure.
factors,
Yeah.
weather and materials. supply
Yeah.
chain, so
How many lots are we talking probably?
4, right?
ideally 4,
Okay.
we need to.
4 on that lot?
4
Big
houses,
real.
yeah.
Well,
It's not
if it goes to residential, I think there's smaller.
200, is
Yeah.
it 200 foot,
200 frontage.
160.
160?
Oh, 160?
They've got a good 800 to 900 linear feet along Halseyville Road that looks buildable or mostly buildable.
Hmm.
You get into that far northern point up there, it probably gets pretty sketchy, but the whole thing is like 1,300 feet, give or take a little bit. Or 1,250, somewhere in that region, so.
That doesn't necessarily mean that there'll be 4 structures there. There could be a family that comes along and says, I really want to buy and build on this lot and buy the adjacent lot so that I have some space.
Okay,
No, I get it, but yeah,
we're okay with
yeah,
that.
but you're, yeah.
Yep.
4
But,
lots.
so did you not say that one of the requirements was having a complete overview of what's going in?
Yeah, there's,
We had more.
it's number 8 on the memo, if you look at your memo, it's just the plan. We should be able to see the entire plan, where the houses are gonna be, where if, you know, the complex is gonna be, we
Right.
should have the entire plan in front of us
Right.
before we decide what we're going to do.
Right,
And also, financially and physically, if it can be done.
right. One of the reasons that we're looking at that wanting that whole overview is so that we can look at the wetlands.
Mhm.
Those are gonna have an impact, we know, in some parts of that area.
Right.
Okay.
And also, because of the financial, it's just that we don't want you to put in 1 or 2 houses and then walk away from it if you plan on doing the whole thing. Because then it leaves us with an area that we really can't, I mean, we have a business district, a sliver, but it's not the same. So we just want to make sure, that's all. And it would be nice if you can give us a plan that would show us about where the houses are gonna be, you know, the complex is gonna be, that type of stuff, and the timeline.
Sure. We can give more information. When Niels and I had met to do the submission for the rezone, we didn't want to clutter the conversation with subdivision, so we initially had gone down that route of providing all the lot line, the proposed lot lines and locations, but we decided to limit that for now and focus on the rezoning of the 2 areas. And move forward later when we get to the subdivision. Sure. I could revamp that approach.
So with that though, I mean, we can look at it as a sketch plan, so you're not looking at as a final.
No.
And you're not looking at it as a final plat, but if you just wanna like draw something together of a.
It's really just something so that we have an idea to look at and talk about,
To
to see
visualize
what the impacts might be.
Is there a specific reason for the split in the middle between business and residential? And have you done a market analysis to see whether or not this business is actually going to profit?
No, I've done the market analysis, it's more based on experience with the community and with the sports that we provide and other activities, gym membership, stuff like that. But
The field was booked from morning through about 2:00, 2 AM. So
What,
the field associated with the rink up in Lansing. They had 2 soccer fields, they were constantly booked. I would assume you could easily
yeah, it's
book them.
even the
here.
whisper of an indoor space,
Yeah.
we generally get calls after.
You could fill up late hours with adults if you needed to and everything else. That's,
There's a lot of soccer leagues and men's leagues that. So no, I've not done a formal market analysis, but I'm confident that it would be viable.
I mean, it's a very good idea. We just have to make sure we do it right, that's all.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide more information.
was there a reason for the split down the middle?
Other than to give the maximum amount of lots on Halseyville Road, not really. I didn't think that the Trumansburg side was a good place for residents, with the busy road, so I wanted to keep the residential to the rear.
Yeah, on the back road, yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to your
Did you have
front
other-
door analysis, you'd have like a huge warehouse as your front door. I feel like
No,
that would be less appealing.
I'll try to provide some elevations of what it would look like.
Mm.
It'd be better than a warehouse.
That would be a very good idea because that is part of our job is to make sure that it isn't going to look like it is now.
Oh, okay, so from a process point of view, we have to hold a hearing, right? No, we don't, to change, so.
You know, the town board does.
Okay.
Yeah, we just give
Got it.
recommendations.
Somebody's gonna, and I would think that for a hearing, that that would be important, in order to help people visualize.
Oh, sure, if
If
there's
we
gonna
could-
be
Yeah,
a public meeting, people are gonna say, I
Yes.
want to see what's gonna go there.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree. Okay, so back to what we're supposed to do, the original, if you're removing a DD development district, it's supposed to revert to the, yeah, it would automatically revert to ag. No? Why not?
It's whatever the town board decides to, as long as it's compliant with the comp plan. And so it can go to
Oh, okay,
anything that is consistent with the comp plan.
right, I read it,
Which
okay,
is-
Did you read the memos, all the
Which is
different
ag.
options, the
Yeah.
5 different
Oh,
options?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I did.
Okay.
But- I was just trying to, I'm trying to visualize in my mind, so what gets you to move off of that? Because I had that background sense that you should revert to what's in the area already. Right, and from a public opinion point of view, right, that would make a lot of sense, because people are gonna look at it. They're living in an agricultural district, they're depending on it being, if they understand it, depending on it to be an agricultural area.
Mm.
And then you're putting something different in, and so what would cause you to move, what would help you justify moving off that? And it would be that you have a really good, solid business case for something else to go in and become part of the BD.
Well,
Because we haven't just decided that all of 96 is gonna be business districts.
No,
Right, and so, we're just adding one more, and to keep it from looking like it's, spot zoning. Right, just to meet,
well, I think the
Somebody's
reason for
point of
the
view.
residential is so that he can build the 3 or
resident-
4 houses, so he can
Right.
fund the complex itself.
and that's a question too, I
Right.
mean,
And
people
if
in
it
that area.
wasn't, then it would be
yeah,
400 feet, and he'd only probably be able to put 2 houses in,
Yeah,
which probably wouldn't be able to fund the complex.
yeah,
So that's the reason it's all going through this way.
and that's true, and the other case for it too is, does it fit into the character of the neighborhood?
Right.
I think it's gonna be an upgrade. On both sides of the road, versus the trailer on the one side and the, yeah,
Dilapidated bar.
and the bar on the other side,
Hmm.
so I can see that too.
And I saw on your, what was provided, you picked up on the extra wide width of 96 down through there.
Yeah,
Like a 60-foot setback or something like that from the center of the road. The
Isn't that
existing-
interesting,
The
huh?
existing sign that's out there, what used to be there, the Bar Angus sign, is actually in state ground. So the property line runs between there and the building of what they can work on, so it really forces it back into the lot part of it. So
that was the reason why the last applicant
Right.
gave up, because the state said no, they weren't gonna
Right.
move it.
Well, and it's good too. I mean, is that place condemned?
Not condemned, but it should be.
It should be.
Should be.
I've been in there like 2 years ago and it was, yeah.
It should be. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's just a matter of, we
Yeah,
haven't done
we
it,
should.
nobody's done it.
We can go through the process of condemning it, before we demo it, but we're demoing it regardless, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, it
doesn't
doesn't matter.
change anything else.
The DOT typical setback is 30 yards or 30 feet from center of road. Some point in the 50s, some DOT surveyor decided that this particular property needed 58 feet or something similar to that. It's high 50s. Which makes the existing parking area part of the building, all the signage, null and void. You're not even supposed to have plantings there.
Yeah.
Now, it's very unlikely the state's gonna come by and say, oh, take that tree out, but technically, you're not supposed to put anything in there, and we wouldn't be able to have parking in that area, we wouldn't be able to have any sort of building or anything permanent in that area, or signage. It would all have to be 58 feet from the center of the road, which
Yeah.
adds a lot of excavation costs because there's a pretty substantial drop off in the elevation behind the current building.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is what pushed the barbecue applicant out.
Is that right away consistent to the south? Does anybody know?
maybe they thought they needed street parking.
I'm
in front
gonna
of
guess,
Brandon's.
no, I think they were figuring they were gonna do the 4 lanes at some point.
Right.
That's the-
Yeah.
Take a look.
It certainly goes to their south property line, but I don't know if it goes by Stover lumber that way.
I do have a question for the board. Are you in favor of making it residential?
On the Halseyville side,
Thanks.
at
I
this
don't see
point.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the map, there's nothing on the other side except farmland, so it's not really gonna be.
Wasn't that beauty shop over there?
It is about a quarter mile up the road. The
She'll
the
be
beauty
happy.
barn is up the
Yeah.
road.
Oh, that's up the road.
Yeah, about a
Yeah.
quarter mile up
Yeah.
Halseyville Road, but
Well, I
think-
just wanted to make sure that
Right.
we all agree on at least one thing.
Yeah,
This is the zoning map right now, so we've got some residential up there.
Yeah.
This is another development district here.
Right,
that's another business in that corner. yeah.
Right, but that's on 96,
yeah,
Right,
so,
yeah.
Well,
and
which
that's
is
why,
fine, which is
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think it's within, and in fact, an upgrade in the character of the area, so I
Yeah.
think that's a legitimate case.
Are you
Oh,
gonna talk to
definitely.
DOT about traffic?
The DOT does not really want to get back to anybody. It's
Well-
it was very difficult to get that answer.
Yeah.
And it actually took the applicant for the barbecue, proposal several months to find anyone who would give them that information.
yeah.
So,
One good thing is that section of the road is pretty open. I mean, you can see pretty far. That's why if you did a site plan and, showed us about where the complex and where the entrance will be, we'd be able to judge it better.
yeah, it would have to be. To have the
And with
right depth, it would have to be kind of in this area here, but I can provide some materials that show.
Oh, yeah, on the
And
left
where the-
side of that building, yeah.
And where
yeah.
the park,
And that is a pretty straight area.
Yeah.
Would it be, let me ask you, would it be close to Agard Road?
The building would be.
No, your entrance, if you put an entrance in.
The parking is one of the reasons for to answer your earlier question.
Yeah.
about The linear, delineation, the parking would likely be on this portion here,
Okay,
so it wouldn't.
With
impact
access from
Okay,
96.
access to this.
and it is an open section there, so I don't think
So parking,
And,
an entrance would be a problem on that road.
and it's just
parking to the north and structure would be,
just a vacant lot on the other side, right? Yeah,
on this is farming, this is like Cornfield.
oh, it is a cornfield, oh, okay. Oh, it's down there, right, yeah, okay.
I think this is owned by Stover as well.
Stovers is just to the south.
Stover
but
is
they-
south of
same-
Vanguard.
same homeowner.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think it's just woodland across there, north of Vanguard.
Yeah, north of it. No, there is a house on the corner of Agard.
Looks like, yeah. pretty-
Yeah, but their entrance is on Agard. It's not on
Right.
96, so it wouldn't be in
Yeah,
there,
I
wouldn't
don't
be in their
intend to
property.
enter here, it would be more. up here.
Yeah, because if you get too close to the south end too, you get into the creek coming across there, and there may be wetland setback, like floodplain setback on that south boundary.
Yeah, but I think his property just runs along the creek bed, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't get, so. See if it's better. Yeah, it's- yeah.
Mhm.
So this. Might show the creek a little bit better. Yeah, need some money.
Did we get that?
So the creek is like right in this area. I typically don't own that portion. Kind of jogs
Okay,
along with the yellow here.
Close to it, though.
Yeah. close
Yeah.
to it.
yeah.
Close to it.
So depending on what the DEC decides for setback,
Yeah.
you might get into an issue if he gets too close to that south end of the lot. But
Yeah.
I would think, it looks like where you're coming in.
Yeah, that's a pretty big elevation change here going down to the creek, so.
Well, if you see, he has the FEMA special flood hazard right there that comes right across the entire lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's that one corner where that,
There's another house in there on Halseyville and then
Right here, it's
little corner jog.
yeah, and that's where the floodplain is, comes right across all the way to 96. But not all, I'm sorry, not all the way to 96, just partial.
Anyway, the citing to help at least visually understand sort of
The
plan
feasibility.
item will help a whole bunch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And realizing that this is not the final version, that, when you get approvals and get it split and get farther down the line, and you'll end up coming back to the actual building. And it might have to move. So,
So,
Yeah, just to make the district, to decide how we're gonna do the district, we just, would be nice if we could see a plan
Yeah.
of some sort.
happy to provide it.
That's good. That would be very helpful.
If you could include proposed, where the proposed buildings would be in the
Yeah,
building
that's-
envelopes.
Yeah, that's a site plan.
Right, but the
Beautiful.
sketch plan
Or
is
sketch.
usually,
Yeah,
Yeah, so the residential side and the.
yes.
right.
so are there any of the options that we want to eliminate at this point?
No, I wouldn't eliminate any of them. I would just wait till we get a better plan and then take it from there.
I did get feedback from Nate. Nate is our town legal on the last option.
Yeah,
So that wouldn't be viable.
okay,
Even though the
That's-
town board can apply conditions, the concept of a contract rezone is not legal in the state. So,
We're talking
and
about number 5.
option 5.
Option 5.
Right.
so even though, in my opinion, that would be the best option for the town and for the applicant. New York State doesn't necessarily allow it for us at this time.
I mean, you'd have to leave it DD3 and.
Yeah.
Divide it up that way.
Well, I think permanently getting rid of DD3 and getting it into, for me, making it the business side, because we already have in our zoning all the requirements for a business district. So we don't need to think about fine details and setbacks and all the rest of it. It's already there. And if we just stay with what's already in the zoning, it certainly simplifies the decision making and what we need to include.
So would you you wouldn't be in favor of option 3 then? Where we just do AR on the west and DD3 on the left, on the east.
I would prefer that we make a real decision and put it into something that the builder knows what he's working against.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
something out
definitely,
there, well, we may or may not
Right.
approve it and
Right,
keep
that's not
this
fair.
leftover piece of DD3. And DD3, I don't think is helping anybody. And I think to make it go away permanently would be useful.
So that kind of gets rid of 2 and 3. Right? So that leaves us with 4, 1 and 4. Oh, wait,
No,
Right.
4 is just. Is similar to option 1,
Well,
Yeah.
or is rezone the whole
Yeah.
parcel
right?
right,
to the same.
To make it all R or AR
Mm,
and then work
And,
from
and
there.
then we'll have to redo it to make a business district,
Right.
which is,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're doing it twice.
yeah, yes, do it once.
The town board is going to have to come through on their end of what has to happen to make the changes anyway, so I think doing it one time would be better than doing it twice.
Mhm.
so it sounds like we sort of got.
Sort of back to option one.
Option. Yeah, anybody?
I personally feel like I
Feeling?
need more information to make a decision.
No,
Yeah.
no, I
Well, I
know, this
think
is
we-
just for, so we
yeah,
can
initial-
think it through better,
Yeah.
easier, and not thinking about 5 at a time.
Right.
Yeah, it's better to narrow it down to at least
Yeah.
2.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go, and then. Would you be able to turn around what we're asking for before our meeting on, today is what, the 4th, so the 18th would be our next meeting?
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Oh, good.
So, and that would allow us to get a response to the town board before their meeting in April.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think that would be very, very good.
Aside from building locations, potential subdivision lines, is there anything else that you would like to see?
Just,
I don't know if I'll be able to have a full elevation for you, but I can provide some.
Just
Some-
a-
I don't
just
think
an
we
idea
really
what you're
need-
thinking
Good
of,
picture.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think we really need a full elevation,
Yeah,
but
what you're picking
just where the
up.
buildings, the lot lines, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Entrances, you know, if
Size
you have,
materials.
Yeah,
I mean, you'll have to do that eventually anyway, but I don't think we'll need it, just look it over.
If you have anything you're thinking of design wise.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Alright.
Oh, and the only other thing would be, if you're doing it in stages, you know, what the timeline would be, if you can give us a rough
roughly,
estimate.
Yeah, I could bring you on each day.
Okay, thank you.
If the Canadian lumber, a triple suit price.
well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not excited about that.
Our next new business item is town board resolution 2025-58 and their notice to act as lead agency for a proposed land donation. Related minor subdivision. The town board received a proposal by Marvin and Allison Fritz, owners of 5150 and 5250 Cold Springs Road, to donate portions of their land for the purpose of establishing a town park. The proposed area of land would require approval of a minor subdivision, requires environmental review and determination, and the land donation itself is also subject to environmental review and determination. The town board met on February 11th and 25th, 2025 of February to discuss the proposal and passed resolution 2025-58 declaring intent to act as lead agency for the coordinated environmental review. The full notice of environmental assessment form was executed on March 3rd, along with a letter to the planning board regarding the written notice of intent. By state law, lead agency must be agreed upon within 30 calendar days of the date of notice, unless a written objection is submitted to the town board by another agency with authority. The town board will automatically assume the role of lead agency at the end of the 30 days. With this process, written comments on the proposal are also solicited and must be received by the town board prior to the 30-day deadline. Caitlin, would you care to enlighten us on what we're really looking at doing here?
Sure, so, and I'm also going to probably pass the torch rather quickly to Liz Weatherby because she does this professionally. And in my planning background, in historic preservation, we don't really have to worry about that very much. So basically, the document, the FEAF is in draft form. The town board accepted it as the initial draft. We provided that, should have gotten in your packet. It's a 13-ish page document. And it reflects the town having gone through the DEC workbook for seeker and answering questions that pertain to the proposed donation. Now, the proposed donation is for recreation purposes, but the purposes of how it would exactly be used have not been determined, right? I can't tell you there's going to be X number of playing fields and X number of playgrounds and next number of parking spaces yet. That design phase is well in the future should the town choose to accept the donation. At this juncture, we do know, and it is declared in the initial FEAF that recreation is the intended purpose. And so there may be some general ideas of what that could entail, but we're certainly nowhere near the stage of having specificity about that. What am I missing?
Just that the form was filled out with the intent of looking at the variance required, the subdivision required, that before, both of those have to be done before we accept the donation officially. So we're looking to you to take a look at the FEAF, first, see if you agree with the town board taking lead agency, and then ultimately you'll also be reviewing the subdivision. And I believe it's a minor subdivision in our town of business.
And could you specify too the information used from the DEC to actually populate the form?
Yeah, so if anybody's ever tried filling out one of these forms, there's the Seeker EAF Mapper is an online tool that you fill in either by a parcel size or a project boundary, what your area you want to be considered as the proposed action. Here, we're looking at the area, the 234 acres that is being considered for donation. And there are several questions that are automatically populated by the DEC that provide information on environmental resources in the area of the project, known archaeological resources, historic resources, wetlands, floodplains. Some of that information is all published in, whether there's any known remediation sites in the vicinity of the project site. It's usually 500 feet. So that information is all automatically populated by the DEC, and you can see which answers are actually auto-populated on the last sheet of the FEAF. There's a map with the answers on the bottom. All the other information was inputted by Niels helped, I helped, Caitlin helped, and Nate helped as well as the rest of the information relative to the subdivision and the donation and variance. So that's what's in front of you.
Okay.
The flag lot, the entrance is only 38 feet.
So that's the variance. The zoning requires 50 feet, but in order to preserve the house parcel and keep it zoning compliant, the variance required would be the 38 feet.
Those are both rentals, right? Or
Yes, well,
they're owned by.
They're owned by folks, yes.
And
One of them is owned by Marvin and Allison Prince, the house that we're looking to take 38. Correct.
Okay.
So that is owned
They own
by
two
Marvin
parcels.
and Allison Prince, and then there's a landowner adjacent.
they're the Pritzard are proposing a subdivision of 2 properties. The flagpole, part of the flagpole is through their rental property, and the bulk of the land is
Tied to their.
tied to their primary residence.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
So the primary access to that field, I was out there today and I couldn't figure it out so the primary access to that field today is through their main primary residence.
Yes.
Okay.
So they ended up in the 90s, my understanding is that there was a large farm kind of in the interior of Cold Spring that was subdivided. And in order for them to purchase the field behind their house, they also had to purchase the field next to it. So that's how they ended up with this field.
Oh,
So that's how their initial, my understanding is their initial desire was to have the farm field behind their house. And then when that subdivision happened, and the land was sold off, you know, they wanted to sell it as a chunk.
so have they been renting it?
Yeah, it's, there's
Yeah,
been
cause it
a
looks like
farmer.
it's cultivated.
That field
Yeah.
is a local farmer who's also potentially retiring also. So the land is gonna be in transition. is my
Yeah.
understanding.
And just to clarify, there is a farm access that goes through another parcel. You can see further down the road.
There's a
You're
farm
heading away
road.
from
Yeah.
96 and
The one with the
multi-bill.
lock on the gate.
Yeah.
So the farm
Okay.
uses that. They don't go through.
The house,
Oh, that's, okay.
They go through
Well,
that.
no, I knew.
But as of now, that's two other property owners that
Okay.
would
Going
need to
anywhere,
go
yeah.
into discussions, and so
Yeah.
that's not.
So the main entrance is just that 38 feet going through.
So-
And I noticed in here, a parent septic filter, the road goes right over it.
Well, no, it doesn't currently, right? There's no road there.
I know, but there
Right.
will be
So
eventually, yeah.
if we talked to the health department, I reached out to the health department to see, because after we had the survey done and that showed up,
Yeah,
we needed to see what the situation would be related to that. It doesn't go through the septic tank itself. It
No.
goes through the septic filter.
yeah.
And so when we talked to the health department, they said that it's, you know, it's not a problem to relocate the septic filter. They walked us through the process of if the town gets to that point, what it looks like to go through that permitting process. It's fairly simple. The town's highway head of DPW, his
Yeah.
group can actually do it. And it would be bound into the donation agreement that it would be a condition of establishing a driveway there. Because
Yeah.
obviously you don't want to put a driveway on top of
Right,
that
yeah,
and ruin
yeah,
it. So before anything could ever be developed down that pathway, that filter would be.
Looks like they have more than enough land on parcel A to do that,
Yeah,
just to move
there's-
it over.
Yeah, there wasn't a concern from the health department about the relocation, and estimates, not that it pertains to the planning board, but the estimates are coming back in the range of about $4,000
Hmm.
for paying for town labor and supplies.
Hmm.
So,
That's reasonable.
yeah.
Could they come do mine?
Anyway, that's what it looks like, the road.
Yeah,
Past the house.
I drove by it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it pertained, and I just wanted to throw out here, so I was once on the planning board. And I was on the planning board when the town did its zoning update back in 2019. And there was a lot of talk in the zoning update about spatial requirements and flag lots having the 50-foot. And something I learned at that point, because our planner at that point, his background did a lot of agriculture. And the 50-foot, from what we were told then, and I could be wrong, but the 50-foot from our understanding at that point, the 50-foot requirement for flag lots is because a lot of times these are agricultural fields. And you need the 50 feet for large scale agricultural equipment. And so 50 feet would always, in those cases, give you enough if you needed to access a farm field with one of those gigantic,
Now you need more than 50 feet with some of the
Some of
equipment
them,
I've seen
yeah,
out here.
yeah. But that was the understanding that we were operating on back in 2018, 2019.
So the land is,
Limits on the development from the Pritzes in terms of what can go there.
There are, so it has to be for recreation purposes, so the town wouldn't be able, so if it's accepted, the town would not be able to be like, you know what would be great here? A new DPW facility that would actually trigger the return of the land to the donors or to their estate. So it is truly for recreation purposes. What that recreation purpose looks like, though, is obviously a very open discussion that I will say personally, I'm very interested in if it goes forward about what the public wants. I think this is a unique opportunity to be gifted land, especially when prices now have gone astronomical in the town of Ulysses. And I would want it to be a park that was designed by the people for the people. But what that looks like is obviously.
It appears to be fairly flat. too.
yeah, that's what I
It
was
is.
just gonna ask, if it's,
It says
the elevations isn't pretty
It's 0
flat.
to 2% grade. It's been tiled, so it's well drained.
Mm.
And the donation would not include any pieces
No
of the
green,
brook.
no
and
water.
creeks that are on different sides. That's
Yeah.
not.
Percentage of it's woody.
0.
Inside the fence.
You know, I was thinking,
Couple trees for the access.
happened to be at the town board meeting. First came up and there was all the discussion about it. Probably would be good to have some wooded land behind the houses that along,
Screening.
yeah. Just.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
probably,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think.
And
there's
have some
ways to
discussion.
mitigate
Yeah.
A lot of different like concerns that we've been hearing about, and we want to reiterate. We want to continue hearing the
Yeah.
concerns and the questions that people have, so please feel free to email the town board and you guys, and the zoning board. But I do believe there are gonna be some ways where we can mitigate some of the
yeah.
concerns, whether it's. I think we've mentioned that there's Princeton had. Are thinking that they don't want lights on all the time, they don't want massive stadium lights. So if that's
Or
something
not
that
have
would
them
be.
at all.
There might be some lights for security at the parking lot, but again, this
Okay,
is things that
okay.
still have to be planned on down the road. There's no
Right.
decisions whatsoever on
Cause
that.
I thought that was a real selling.
Yeah.
That there were gonna be, especially with the houses right there. and
Right, so,
Yeah.
but any
Yeah.
screening for the adjacent properties, that's things that we'll be happy to talk
Yeah.
to folks and neighbors about for sure.
Well, and I think there's advantage even to just being on a park that is screened from the visual nature of the built environment, right? That it's a benefit can be a benefit to both sides to having those visual barriers and also the safety barriers. I have small children, I wouldn't want them running accidentally into somebody else's yard. I mean,
No.
fences are options, trees are options, there's, fences can make good neighbors depending on what you're fencing, right? So I think that those are design elements that we'll be wanting to hear from neighbors but also very much the planning board of recommendations you have.
Yeah.
If we get to that stage
Yeah.
of what can be done
Right.
to mitigate.
Yeah. Just to manage expectations are really good and up front. The other thing is. Does look like
Yeah.
good.
So there's nobody
farmland.
really here.
We're taking
This
it,
side, this side
counter
of
to
the
the
road would be
comprehensive plan, taking it
So it
out.
really wouldn't be in the way of it, but this is the owner. right?
So any more on the story about what was its future, if,
I have nothing that I have no ability to speak to that,
I know.
Yeah.
but I mean. The
So
acreage,
If you
property
could.
do with what they want.
Right.
Yeah, I know,
but I don't think.
because there's farmland everywhere around it on all sides, right?
Not to the north, but that's a
to-
different property owner.
Right, but there is to the north,
East and
There's,
the west immediately, there's forest areas, but then there's some ag lands further
further.
to the
Yeah.
east.
I think to the west, it's all wood and there's a pond there because I have it up. The main field that's the main field, and on the east side, there's a couple of fields, but there's woods between it.
Yeah, there is.
And that's
yeah.
still Marvin's property, but he doesn't, he farms that himself. He used to have a strawberry farm there.
Well, I see where the road is gonna go is really not going to be a problem because he owns the property.
Yeah,
And there's really nobody next to it. There's a garage there, but there's nobody on the other side. Yeah,
People live.
Yeah, there's nobody on the other side of it, really.
No, there's a house on the other
There's
side.
a-
Yeah, but but by the pond, but there's a lot of woods in between that.
There's an A-frame too. There's a house, there's a yellow house with a garage right next to.
So this is where the road's gonna go through, right?
No,
Oh, it isn't?
no, the road is gonna go through here.
Go
So
through
this
this
is the
side.
rental property that the
Yeah,
Fritz's
and
own.
This is their house.
This is, no, this is their house is down here.
Oh, down here, okay.
Yeah.
So the access road would come here. This is the flag for the
Okay.
flagpole that we're
Okay.
proposing. This is another residential property.
Uh-huh.
This is an A-frame that is also
Okay.
residential
Yes, it's
property.
here. I thought it was in between.
Yeah, and then the farmer's access is
Yeah, down.
back here.
Yeah. So it's going right through.
It's
here.
going through here.
Hmm, okay,
So, and I think their property pretty much goes, there's a couple feet between their garage and the edge of the property and then the
Okay.
driveway.
okay. Thank you.
The Princess property is,
Down here?
$51.50, yeah, it's back down.
This one, I think.
That one? Oh, okay, they own all that, yeah.
Is
Okay.
is a pool still kicking around as a possibility here?
I'm not-
That is
I'm not gonna go there
that's like
because
the
money
third
wise,
rail.
but-
That's the third rail that you can't get me to touch. I mean,
Okay.
if you want my personal opinion on a pool would be a phenomenal asset to the village of Trimsburg. And
Yeah,
I would
but-
enthusiastically support a pool in the village of Trimsburg. In part because you know, if we were, this is beyond the scope of this, but if we're talking about like community assets and community center and all of that, I think the village is gonna be a great location. Personally, also, I would say,
A pool would be a little difficult, I think, in that area.
now that Camp Barton is going to help us having better access to swimming is my hope long term. The fact is that drowning is the leading cause of death for children under the age of 4. It's a primary cause of death for children over the age of 4, and we don't teach swimming lessons, and we're surrounded by water. So like, I can tell you from my position at the town is I want to get free swimming lessons at Camp Barton. So I'm sure I will hear about a pool. I would love to hear if the community wants to have a pool, but there has been no conversation in any formal sense about a pool. So again, that third rail.
It keeps coming back.
It does keep coming back up.
I think it was a kiddie pool that somebody was talking about.
One of the rubber ones.
I'll put that maybe.
Yeah.
So what is the next process?
So we're collecting feedback right now, and we wanna, you have time to do that. If you come across environmental concerns that you don't feel like you have enough time, please let us know that. We're not trying to rush your process, we're just trying to go through the process. So it goes to you, it goes to, the BZA. It's at, Office of Planning and Sustainability, for Tompkins County. It's at the code department for lot line adjustment consideration. And so this is a draft FEAF. If you have comments, the public has comments, we want to hear them. We want to edit them appropriately into the document. And then the next step from there would be the town board considering a donation agreement. And a donation agreement would be conditional upon subdivision. So there's no way to accept land without a subdivision. So then we'd have to go through the legal subdivision process.
And I think the one other item that would just be probably at the top of your item would be to see if you agree with the town board taking the agency. And if you don't, you'd have to send us a letter within 30 days of the receipt. If you guys are okay with that, then you either can ignore the letter or say that you.
Well, it is free land. I mean, you can't say no to that, really.
Well, it's free, but it's gonna, okay.
But it is agricultural land.
It's never free.
It's agricultural,
free.
it goes off the tax roll.
Right.
Right?
I
But yeah, but the long term, if the town decides to put a DPW, it reverts back. I know. So it reverts back. How long does that go? I mean, how can
Perpetuity.
So how do they do
To
that?
heirs or
It would be a
assigned.
trust or state,
However,
however,
you
the
keep
property,
it
it would go back
forever.
to how it
Okay.
would be
I would-
divided now.
Yeah,
We could
And
be,
follow
we could
the
be a
past.
cousin, we could be the children of the children of the children. But I would not be around for that. for
and you
years.
finally decide not to have the soccer fields there and then this way.
Or shuffleboard courts or whatever. the
Walking
town
trails.
calls them.
Pickleboard.
Yeah. The other thing I would say too is I'm not insensitive to it being agricultural land. But there's no other land that would really be donated. Like, would you feel better about a forest being cleared for?
Oh, no,
Park, right?
no,
Or
no.
houses
Oh,
being
no.
torn down? And the point about this land, that I think is different from a lot of other agricultural land, is it's on a public water line. We have very few
Yeah.
public water lines in
Right.
the town of Ulysses, and this field happens to be ability long-term to be able to connect to it, which means we don't have to worry about polluting anybody's private well system. We don't have to worry about water tables. And it's long-term. I can tell you that not long-term, past term, 30 years ago, when they put in that Water District 3 to feed Jacksonville, they overbuilt it. It is too large.
Well, this is the Ithaca water,
This is
the Ithaca that comes from Ithaca.
It comes from
Yeah,
Italy.
Yeah, this is not the old one.
No,
No,
when they
but all
built.
the water district
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
provided by both.
But the water is, the water district, the infrastructure is built for a district that's actually larger than we actually have. So more users long-term is actually a good thing for the water district, whether you think it's a good thing for the town or for the road or whatever it is. Water district by itself.
It's also a dead end on the water district, so
Yeah.
there could be a lot of issues. That's why Willie's Water comes in and breaks that hydrant a lot to keep the water flowing. So
Yeah.
it doesn't just sit there and
Yeah.
become stagnant.
That's a
The
really,
only,
that's a really good point, because that impacts the price
Yeah.
as farmland too. Yeah, so.
the only concern I have, well, not really me, but The houses that the road's gonna go right through. There's a house on one side, house on the other side. How do they feel about it?
Well, the one house is owned by Marvin and Allison.
Right, at the present time.
Yep, at the present time, and they do rent it out. I believe Marvin's had conversations, but you'd have to probably hear from them.
Yeah,
Tyler Sherman is on. He
oh,
owns the
is
other
that the
house.
other one? The
Yeah.
other side? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
The only thing I could suggest is a very tall fence, so they wouldn't have to see the cars coming and going, but that's up to the town, not up to anybody else. That's the only thing is where that road is gonna go is so close to the two houses.
Well,
It's
it
the only
makes,
thing I see.
yeah, it makes the houses like difficult to have kids.
Well, that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
a fence, you know,
Right,
that would
yeah.
go through, but that's the only thing I can see that's a
Yeah.
problem there. It's gonna be that. And whatever the neighbors consider.
If, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Trumansburg Fishing Game Club, but you should go check that out because they have a similar driveway to their property through a residential neighborhood.
They do?
on Searsburg Road. And it's posted at 5 miles an hour and it really does, it goes right between two houses, it goes behind, twists around behind houses. And you might think, well, they're not having that many people, they actually do have a lot of people, one of my kids is a trap shooter. And that parking lot gets full of people and they definitely have people coming through, so whether or not it's an apples to apples comparison, it design wise, it's a very similar.
Yeah.
A similar thing, so if you wanna check that out, that's an easy one to look at.
Well, it's not really a concern. To me, it's a
Right.
concern really to what's gonna happen with
Of course.
the area there,
Yeah.
if people are gonna, you know. Say no, let's put it that way.
We want to give Mr. Sherman a chance to chime in.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Hi there. The one gentleman there, the map you were looking at that Liz came over and helped you with, does that show our home on there or just a garage?
it's an aerial. It shows the garage and your home.
It's a Google map, Google Maps.
Okay, thank you. Because one map that was handed out before just showed a garage. We are a little concerned about the road, but I've been talking to Mr. Pritz. Just wondering, as far as property line where the road can be built. Can that be built directly on the property line, or is it moved over a certain
Oh,
variance from that?
because it's so he's thinking of
Well,
setbacks, right?
With a 32-foot width on that side of the lot, you're probably gonna end up with about 20 foot of that as road as a sort of a minimum fire lane type thing.
Yes, it is on the property line. That's where the road, that's where
Yeah.
they show it. But
Oh,
where the
yeah.
road actually is gonna be, that's something
Physically
else.
within that 32 foot, but I would guess it's
38 feet.
or 38 feet anyhow, that it would be either centered, I suppose it could be skewed to one side. You're talking about 10 foot of difference or 15 foot. Is your house the one just west of the Pritz property? The one
If
with
you're-
all the undergrowth and the trees? The Pritz
Um,
property going through is wide open. It just looks like a park. It's open grass. And then the next property to the left as you're going down.
There's a little
going
stream and
west.
then to the left is the rental property. There's a little stream there, rental property. And then his house is the next one.
We have the tan single story with the beautiful open yard. We have a round driveway that you turn down in there.
Yeah. Yeah, how does, I mean, that's one thing the 50 foot would take care
So-
of.
And to
If
our
we had a
concern a little bit too is with this being a park and you having whatever it ends up being, whether it's a park for the public or for sporting fields and things like that, you're going to have to be getting maybe not buses, but probably buses, emergency vehicles in and out of there. So this will have to be a full-on legitimate road. We worry about the runoff from the road. If it's plowed in the winter, where does the snow, get plowed to? And is it lit? How big does this road really need to be?
Right.
Well-
Does it have to be two-way?
Yeah, it's gotta be two, but I mean, if you
I
look,
just asked, it has to be 20 feet for a town road.
Well, so.
it's a driveway though, it's not a road.
I think that's important to say.
Right, it
because-
is a
so-
driveway.
So village roads,
Mm.
there's a lot of them are 20 feet.
Mm.
When I spoke to we have our fire officer,
Mm.
in a larger scale development.
Mm.
And the reason I talked to him before, because if it was completely unviable, right?
Right.
If it was 10 feet wide.
Mm.
And, you know, and some, a fire and safety person says that's not a viable amount of space, then this would be a very different conversation that we probably wouldn't be having. So when I did speak to them, they sent me the regulations, and in New York, it looks like that, for like a really sizable development, like you have hundreds of apartments back there, you would need the maximum need would be 32 feet for a road. If you go to look at the Village of Trumansburg, a lot of the roads are 20 feet wide. So there's, in terms of can a fire vehicle safely access the space, 38 feet would have a driveway somewhere in there. Again, I think that's a really important distinction you pointed out, a road versus a driveway.
It's access, but the access has to be based on what's getting built too.
Do you
I mean,
know if it's
you're
planned
not
to
gonna
be
have
yet or no?
We're not.
hundreds of
Okay,
units.
I'm just checking.
Yeah, no,
Well,
You know, there's
there's
plenty-
emergency vehicle, ambulance or anything can
Yeah.
get in.
right.
It would have to be able to pass another car. That's the only problem.
Yeah. There's plenty of soccer fields and things that, you know, the clubs use that are, you know, 2-lane gravel driveway, and that's it. And, you know, you're talking 4 or 5 soccer fields potentially, you know, probably 100 cars there at a time, you know, maybe. So, you know, I think it really depends on what you put back there before you need the width of the actual road. The one thing that I think we do need to look at is, you know, making sure, because it is kids, that there's space for bicycles. You know, that it's wide enough to support that, and there probably should be a sidewalk from the road back into, so you're splitting that traffic.
Or a multi-use pathway.
Pretty close to 38 feet you just talked about.
It's tight.
Well, you
It's
said
definitely tight.
how many feet is required by the fire department?
So if like I said, if it was a development that you have to be able to get a lot of emergency vehicles
Sure.
to, like high scale residential development that does not exist in the town of Ulysses. The largest number we could find was 32 feet of width. So when I saw that made, when I came to you, you know, to be able to say, do we know exactly what we're doing? No. Do I know for a fact that it's an area, and I bet you know this too, on the lakeside? We own lake property, now it's in the town of Covert. It's a whole community down there, and it's not paved. It's not saying that this wouldn't necessarily be paved either, but this is that grade. We're not talking about a steep, I can tell you coming down or the road that I get to for our businesses.
The one thing to think about is, you know, if it's not paved, is the dust. Because dry season is when
Oh,
it's gonna get
absolutely.
used the most, and the noise, because gravel roads are noisier than pavement.
I wasn't advocating for.
Yeah, no, I know.
whether- was
It's just-
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that all becomes part of the, how do we design in such a way, and then how do we invest in such a realistic fashion that is, you know, paralleling our financial capacity with design needs, right?
Exactly, yeah. The financial is the big word.
Right, because the house lots are about 350 foot deep. So that means just to get back to where the field starts widening out, you're talking a 350 foot driveway already.
Well, it's 394 feet from the road.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
length.
Okay.
Right there.
So closer to 400, then, all right.
Yeah.
But that's part of what you need to look at.
So, okay, but back to the question about a setback, though. If it's a piece of property, we have setbacks for any buildings. Now, what does a road
I think
count as?
those
yeah.
would be considered an access easement.
You'd
Or
have to have an
would you say it's a
easement.
separate
That's
lot?
a different
No, it's not.
thing, yeah.
The properties that where we have done flag lots,
Sorry?
there has been no specific designation of where in that 50 foot that the road had to physically go. And in some cases it wanders back and forth because of obstructions and.
The only one was the one we just did where they were right next to the Black Diamond Trail. We asked them to move the driveway over a little bit, even though it was a 50
right.
foot, because we just didn't want them
To
to
get
come
more
out into.
clearance.
Right, more
And that's what
clearance.
they've
for that.
done.
But that was the only time we ever.
Well, the other one we had on, I think it was Halseyville Road where that generator was there for the phone
Right.
company. They had to go around the generator to get back there.
Yeah.
Just- So there are obstructions, and the one down there, like 1474 to Ganick, that went back up in a quarter mile or more before it got back there to the real flag. That one wandered back and forth several times just because of the physical lay of the land. But a good point, Mr. Sherman, that, you know, to try and see what we can do. What's your physical address, of your property, so I can understand better?
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, actually, when you were reading in the beginning, I think you might have actually said our property. Our property is 5250 Cold Springs Road.
Okay, because that's what came in the materials,
No, that is our property, not Marvin Pritz's.
5230 is the Princess? Okay, sorry. That's good, because that's when I looked at was, you know, clean like a park, you know, straight back there, so that's the next one.
Well, thank you.
Oh, it's a very nice place, yeah. Okay, so the road is over here.
Yeah, and I think just one more thing, you know, it goes back to figuring out what this is actually going to look like back there, and then you can make a decision on what the road needs to be. Because if it is multiple sporting fields, parks, things like that, you're going to need to be able to get emergency vehicles, maybe multiple at a time, in and out of there. And like you said too, with sidewalks, bike paths and that thing. So is this 38 feet going to suffice for a road plus setbacks on either side and sidewalks and bike paths? So I just ask you to consider that.
Thank you.
You couldn't get more land, could you?
No.
More access.
The lot is
Yeah.
200 foot wide, and if you take 38 feet off of it, you're.
This is viable,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but I understand and want to work with to make sure we can fit everything in there.
I think then it goes on next meeting for us to put something formally together for the town board to get back to them. I guess one question. Do any of you have any objection to the town board being lead agency on this for seeker?
Well, no.
So your answer to that one is, you got it.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so. Yeah,
No.
the only
The
third level.
We don't want to do.
The only third level nitpick I noticed on the last, I think it's the last page of this 13 pages. Is H, it wasn't marked either yes or no. Is the project site within 5 miles? And there's info down below for
Oh,
Taganic
that's
State
supposed to
Park.
be yes.
Yeah, I assume that's what I mean by a third level nitpick.
No, that's why this is draft. Yeah, that's exactly why this is still draft.
Please nitpick. Nitpick to your heart's content. We want to catch this.
Yeah.
So Neil said.
Yeah, so I touched base with Nate. If the planning board wanted to object and say they wanted to be lead agency, you'd have to do it as a resolution, but just to make sure that we cross all our Ts and everything, if you do
We
a
should
motion
do a motion, yeah.
for
or
tonight's meeting,
resolution,
just saying that you agree that the town board will be lead agency, that will help at least
Okay.
resolve that.
I'll
Yes.
make the motion.
Second,
All in favor of the town board being lead agency on this?
Aye.
Aye.
And if you have questions in the meantime, or if you like it, like Liz to come back, I don't know, actually she can next meeting, but if you'd like somebody back before you at your next town board meet or next planning board meeting, please let us know. If you please catch as many things as you can, because we want our draft to be accurate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
okay, nice to meet you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, question on the EAF. Are we is this limited to, I mean, the people are already talking about certain things happening, being developed. Is the EAF limited to basically, we're buying a field, we don't know what's gonna happen there? Or we're being donated a field and we do have some idea what's going to happen, and we can anticipate that some of these things will be impacts, like we know there's gonna be grass fields, sports fields, right,
Yeah.
supposedly. That's a big option. So there is gonna be some grading, there is gonna be stormwater work. We know there's gotta be parking, we know that's gonna generate stormwater work. Does this need to reflect that? Or is that all gonna get done
That would
after
be
it's decided
separately.
on
Well,
what's gonna happen?
I think first the town's gonna have to get money to do this, and I think that's gonna take a while, so. The land probably won't be touched for a year or two before the town has enough money to actually do anything to it. So it could be a while before they
But
actually
will
do
we
it.
have a site plan review when they get the
Yeah,
structure?
That's the question. Have we just given them carte blanche?
Right. No,
No,
No.
they still would have to go through an
Yeah.
approval
This is only
process.
for
This is
the
for the
subdivision
donation.
and the land itself, that's
Let's
all.
make that clear. In the
Yeah.
motion, please.
Okay, I'll make a new motion then if you'd like. That they have, that the
Yeah,
town board will be the lead agency on the acquisition of the property only. How's that?
And the subdivision, because it's a coordination.
Oh, and the subdivision, I'm sorry, acquisition and subdivision of the property only.
Right.
Do I have a second?
Aye.
all in favor?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if they're gonna be lead agency, they should be lead agency throughout the process. They're driving it, they're coming in. You know. There's enough public involvement in this that I think they should have the responsibility of. Doing the environmental review and listening to the comments.
I think that's the only thing that's on the table at the moment, so.
Yeah, there is no building, nothing that they're gonna do except inquire the building.
Well, that's all they've asked for a lead agency on, is the acquisition.
Right, well, that's what,
Right.
yeah, that's all they're gonna do is they're gonna take the property and.
I just don't think we need to say that. I think that's a given.
Yeah.
I mean, you're writing rules for something anticipating that they're gonna try to.
Let's ask our planner what he thinks. Cause he's the one who knows.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for the two triggers for the environmental review, the land donation, it's gonna be a legislative decision. And the subdivision, minor subdivision, as a quasi judicial, so. When you look at. When board members in the next week or two think about comments, when you look at that FEAF, look at it from those two. Perspectives, like how you would look at it just as a land division. And any environmental impacts from just a land division. The FEF is a bit overkill because normally you just look at the short form, not the full form, but that extra information is helpful for you. And then look at it from the perspective of a land donation. Now, thing that's interesting that you pointed out is we know that the purpose and the intended use of that land is to be as a park, right? So that's,
But we don't know what kind of.
we don't know what kind of park, but to your question,
They already have a presentation
they have a presentation, so
and it talks about uses and it talks about.
Right.
So
Is
how
that
do
the old
you,
one? That's not the new one, is it?
that's the town board
Oh,
presentation.
that came with our stuff. So if they're already talking. Then the problem is I see is that the EAF may be on this, but when you throw it out to the public, if you don't have. The impacts that they're already anticipating discussed.
So the land acquisition is for the purpose of a park and they are talking about, you know, what are they gonna do? My understanding is. Backtracking a little bit, so. If the land donation happens, it's currently gonna be zoned AR. So if they wanted to do any sort of park activity to establish a park. That has to come back before the planning board for a special use permit, so there's that little wrinkle for them, they have to work through. Through this whole process, though, I would fully expect that if this land donation does go through, that it's gonna be one of the topics for the comp plan update, because the land use designation is gonna have to change. And so they'll fully vet that out. And part of that comp plan discussion is also rec lands, that's one of the elements. So this should also be part of that if this goes through. And then my presumption is if everything goes through, there'll be a land use designation and the zoning amendment eventually to make that a park. Right, officially as a park, and that'll all get vetted through. And that'll be a separate seeker altogether, and the comp plan should be. It should be an EIS. I'm hoping it'll be an EIS, but it really should be an EIS, but we'll find out what.
So were the motions correct or not correct?
What you said is correct. I think they basically did the same thing. I think what you guys did the first time is essentially what you better
Said on the second
verbally
one.
said, yes,
Okay.
the second one.
So it was correct to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I'm still confused so if it ends up that it's decided to be a bunch of a baseball field, soccer field, and they have the layout.
Mhm.
And they need grading to achieve them.
Mhm.
And that grading is gonna impact water flows. Drainage, doesn't that cause it to come to us?
It depends what the town eventually zones it as. So my presumption, and maybe we can figure this out later
Okay.
we can ask Liz later, but I would not expect that there will be any road improvements or anything to access that to officially
Right.
make it a park until after the comp plan is done. Just because I think, one, they have to get more funding, right,
Right.
to do the road and all that grading. If in the comp plan, they amend the land use map to make it a park and then zone it as park, then park uses are an outright permitted use. And so then any grading and all that stuff would be subject to the normal state water regs. So it'd be a SWIP review, which isn't subject to planning board or anything like that.
Okay,
If they change the regs to where they keep it as agricultural or residential or something, and then have, like they do now, where parks are permitted use just through site plan review, then it would come back for the planning board for that review.
okay, interesting.
So we didn't give up anything, really.
Yeah, it just seems like we should have. We take advantage of trying to do all this stuff around water and managing it and where it goes and how things are treated, is that our purview or not? And it's not all the time, I know that, it isn't, we don't manage the DPW, and what they do with roads.
If it makes you feel any better, farms aren't the best for the
And
land
farms,
use.
that's taken out of our hands there, right?
Remember,
Yeah.
they said that that particular piece of property was tiled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so drainage is
Wow.
probably pretty good on that property right now.
It is, but it might not be good for soccer.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, it does have tiles in it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, no, the tiles are probably good,
Yeah,
yeah.
so one way or the other, we will get to see it again,
Whether you want to or not.
if you want to or not, right?
Wouldn't they have to bring it to us for like site plan design for parking lot and whatnot?
Again, that depends how the town board eventually does the land use designation, the comp plan, and also rezones it.
Yeah.
So if it's a park, no. I mean, if it's zoned as park currently, no. Now, they could change the regulations with the next zoning updates to say that any park. I don't, it'd be interesting to see what happens because currently the park, right, so that was the bubble. So Jacksonville Park went through something last year or the year before, and they had to go through the BZA and the planning board just to get a park in a park zone.
Yes.
But because of that, the town board changed it to make parks an outright permitted use. So that anything moving forward, like for land that's designated as park, can do a park zone or can do park uses without planning board review.
But
If it's owned by a public entity, because we separated that deliberately when
Right,
this was at sale.
Right, right.
Understand that
That if it was
because
privately
you're gonna be
owned, it still
building
had to come to us, if it was
facility.
publicly
You
owned.
still have to consider
Right.
zoning constraints and
Well, we did
Site
get a
design.
say in the parking. Too, a lot to say.
Oh, in Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville, yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
but
Yeah.
that was
Say that.
something, but now it's not like that, is it?
And that was.
No, we changed that.
Or
Yeah.
like what Carl said, it's specific.
Yeah,
As an interest item in this tiling and how much water runs out of there.
Mhm.
The other day I was up on Garrett Road and that big chunk of land up there from between Garrett Road and Dubois Road
Where they
and
put in
Mary
those
City, where
tiles?
they did all that
Yeah.
tile. This is the 2 6-inch drain pipes and they were running about a
Oh, yeah.
quarter of a stream coming out of
Oh,
there.
yeah.
This
Let me
was,
see. I've been looking. And I
this
didn't
was this
see that.
week.
Oh. okay.
Like
Thought
Wednesday,
out,
well, let's see,
yeah.
today is what, Tuesday, so this would have been. Monday, I went up there when I was.
Well, this time of the year, they're gonna run.
Should have expected more.
Well, anyway,
Yeah,
that's why I figured I'd bring it in for you guys to give you some idea. I knew we'd come up and
Yeah.
how much water was gonna come out of them. So those 2 6-inch drain lines, it's about a quarter of a stream out of each one, but that's probably 30 acres of ground roughly in that
Yeah.
chunk up there. Just for info.
Yeah. yeah, it hasn't, I expected there to be a lot more water flow off those fields after they did it. It's not.
Wait.
been.
It's not yet mud season.
It's not yet.
Well, that's true. The ground is still pretty frozen.
And all that water is not gonna get put back into
That's right.
the aquifer.
Yeah, but it looks like somebody's off it. Yeah. Yep, I agree.
So. I guess for us, for the next meeting, then we need to be ready to provide. A resolution of some sort to the town. For this, this
Yeah.
land acquisition stuff. We got rid of the lead agency part of it. And we'll also need to be ready to, once we see kind of a photo layout, timeline and that sort of stuff to
Oh, for, yeah.
deal with DD3.
Mhm.
And then we'll move the what are they, vernal pool training the next time. I'll remember to bring the stuff with me. Anything else?
No, should I make a motion?
Yes, please.
Well, I just did.
It's your turn.
I second it.
All right.
Aye.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.